Mega Man Legends starts off with an intro cutscene showing an airship slowly flying over a vast ocean towards a small island, while a narrator explains the basic context of the game's world.
In a world covered by endless water.
The island is actually the entrance to the first level in the game, used as an interactive tutorial and a more hand-holdy version of the usual paradigm of a Mega Man game's first level, where you're forced to engage with all of the necessary fundamental locomotion and attacking mechanics before you can complete it. You battle some enemies, find and equip a Mega Buster part, and traverse some ruins before fighting a boss. Now, I know that the actual canon of the game delves deep into sci-fi and traditional Mega Man lore, including the not necessarily human nature of most of the characters, but I think that's secondary to an aspect of the game that didn't occur to me until more than 20 years after I first played it. It could potentially serve as a vision of the future of Earth. So the other day, I decided to start replaying the game to see what I could glean from it now as a game developer that I wouldn't have picked up on as a child, and to see what lessons games have learned or forgotten since then. For example, it had a simple solution to the problem of the player character being occluded by an object or a piece of terrain that blocks the camera, which is something that quite a few modern games have gotten wrong since. But as I played, I couldn't help but notice a pattern. The world the game existed in is one that could, robot people aside, be in our future. The game begins showing a flooded world, which is something that could happen in our future. The path we're on right now has us barreling through at least 18 different climate tipping points as we reach 2 degrees of warming. The combination of entirely melted glaciers and the massive destruction left in the wake of climate catastrophe-fueled wars could very well make this game's setting a reality. In the game, there are relatively few humans left, sequestered on the small patches of land that a handful of people fortified and ultimately left behind, as the folks on Cadillac's Island seemed largely ignorant of the specifics of the culture that led to the island's creation. They used the walls that were still intact to form their city, but the NPCs never really go into any detail as to the history behind the rubble and clearly ancient nature of the structures that were around before they were. So this could be what life on Earth is like 100+ years after it hits the fan. After the intro level, Mega Man's family crash lands on Cadillac's Island. Immediately, the cops show up and whisk the grandfather away to file citizenship paperwork. Considering that my country currently goes to ridiculous lengths to try to keep immigrants out, I was really struck by the society's behavior. At this point, I realized that it makes total sense for a post-apocalyptic society to be generally welcoming to new people. They have a fairly small population and plenty of resources to go around, or at least enough to be very liberal about handing it out to newcomers. People eke out a living by foraging for old technology in the ruins running beneath the island's surface, and using them to create tools or trade. If someone were to crash land in the city, especially when they're apparently acquainted with the mayor, allowing them to simply stay if they want is just the common sense move. It helps to drive home how strange it is that we don't really facilitate immigration in the US. It's a net benefit economically, culturally, and especially when it comes to food. It's also why I fear that this game could be a vision of our future. It just might take something like a climate catastrophe for us to realize how we should be treating each other. Anyway, I tried to keep the spoilers to a minimum so you could try the game out for yourself. It has a fun story with some lore for you to sink your teeth into if you want, charming characters, and despite the era-appropriate clunky controls, the gameplay and game design really hold up, even in 2020. The cartoony art style also doesn't feel as dated as you might expect from such an old game. If you have a PlayStation 3, PSP, or PS Vita, you can buy it on the PlayStation Network store for $10 or $2 when it's on sale.